I don't know if you know, but rain is actually good luck. So, I don't know if you guys have noticed that there's been this trend of ex-vegans. Has anyone noticed that? Yeah? Okay. Oh, we're straight on getting rains now. All right. So, I help my clients to address the root causes of chronic illness. And basically 95% of diseases are connected to poor diet, poor lifestyle. And in my years of clinical experience, what I have seen is that when we change the diet, guess what? They get better, right? So in this talk, I really want to talk about some of the misunderstandings that are really, really prevalent out there. And unfortunately, the meat and the dairy industry has a very strong lobby group, and there is a vested interest in keeping people sick and also keeping people medicated. So being vegan to me is about much more than food, right? Being vegan is actually all about justice, right? Justice for humans, justice for the animals especially since the animals are the most voiceless. They are silenced, they are hidden away in cages. I saw Mark over there, and it got me emotional because the very first vigil that I ever went to, Regan was at, it was May Long Weekend in 2019. And I remember meeting Regan, I remember meeting Lori that day, and I remember seeing firsthand what the industry does not want people to see. And it has forever changed who I am, what I'm about, and why I do what I do. I really want to talk about human design, right? What kind of species are we humans? So can I please get some audience participation? Do you think we're number one, omnivores? No? No? Okay. Do you think we're carnivores? Okay, all right. Are we herbivores? Oh, okay. Actually, not quite. But we're close. All right. You know, a lot of the common myths and misconceptions that keep getting pushed around is really about things like, what about protein? What about omegas, B12? What about the lions? So let's start with the lions. The lions are true carnivores, right? And it really comes down to, like, if we were to look at the digestive system of a lion and look at the digestive system of a human, we have completely different digestive systems, right? So all digestion begins in the mouth. That means that you need to have enzymes in your mouth that break down the foods that you're eating, right? So lions actually they are an acid-based species. They have acidic enzymes in their mouth designed to help them break down raw animal flesh. Interestingly, humans actually have enzymes in their mouth that are perfectly designed to break down fruit. We are actually frugivores. Our digestive system is designed to actually be primarily fruit-based, right? We have amylase enzymes in our mouth that break down fruit. And when you look at what happens in the digestive system between a lion and a human when we have animal flesh, it's a world of difference, okay? So when a lion chases down its prey and rips it apart limb from limb without needing to remove the hair or cook it or, you know, put vegan spices on it in order to consume it, it actually is able to get that animal flesh through its entire digestive system in under 4 hours. And its GI system is only about 1.5 to 3 feet. Now let's look at the human being. Our digestive tract is 36 to 40 feet. When we have a piece of animal flesh, it takes anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. It basically, when we have a piece of chicken, it putrefies in our gut. And that putrefaction actually attracts parasites and pathogens. It is actually very, very damaging for us to consume animal flesh. So if we want to honor our design, our human design, I see some people shaking their head yes, we need to be primarily fruit-based, right? So then let's quickly talk about how we get our food, right? So if we look at our design versus a lion's design, lions have these things called claws. They have fangs. They can like chase down prey. Most human beings can barely get off the couch. Forget about chasing down prey, right? So we want to really look at how are we designed, and the more we can focus on how is our human anatomy designed and what is the food that we're best suited for, that's when we really see people thrive. In my own personal experience, I've reversed hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, and I have been plant-based since 2004. When I shifted my diet to high raw, mostly fruit, guess what? I felt the best ever, right? So it's not just like necessarily even picking on the animal industry, although animal agriculture, although it's so easy to do. It's also about understanding that primarily if we want to thrive, we need to stay away from processed foods. We need to stay away from like, you know, all the additives and the preservatives and things like that as well. And, you know, that goes for the plant-based options as well. So I also want to talk about omegas, right? It saddens me what's happening to our oceans. And a lot of people sometimes when they think that a healthier option is having fish because of the omegas and not looking at like, okay, where do the fish get their omegas? Do you guys know where fish get their omegas? Algae, right? Fish get their omegas from algae. So we can completely stop emptying out the oceans and just go straight to the plant source. Or some of the other options that I love are hemp seeds, which have the perfect balance of omega-3, 6, and 9. There's also flax seeds that are absolutely amazing. But we can stop emptying our oceans out just for the sake of fish. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that we're an alkaline species. So when we put acid-forming foods into our body, processed foods, animal foods, dairy, fish, all that stuff creates a lot of acidity that our body has to try to buffer to keep us alkaline, because our blood pH is supposed to stay at 7.4. If it doesn't, we die, right? So our body is incredibly smart. It is so smart that it manages to keep us alive despite the silly things that we do to ourselves in our diet, right? I would be remiss if I did not talk about calcium. One of the cruelest industries on the planet is the dairy industry, and the excuse that people have for the dairy industry is, well, where am I going to get my calcium? Has anybody noticed where cows get their calcium? Grass, right? So if we focus on having lots of greens in our diet, a variety of different greens, we're going to be covered off. What most people don't realize is when they consume dairy, dairy is very, very acidic in the human body, and it actually gets our body to start to leach calcium from our bones to try to buffer those acids. So it's actually the complete opposite effect of what we actually want to create in our body. And keeping in mind that our bones aren't made up exclusively of just calcium. Our bones are made up of a whole range of minerals. And I'm going to try not to get like too nerdy on you guys, because it can get a little bit boring and technical. But at the end of the day, it's like if you eat a variety of greens, you're going to be fine. The other excuse that a lot of people have for consuming animal products is B12, right? For myself personally, I am 100% whole food plant-based. I don't supplement. The misconception that a lot of people have when it comes to going vegan is, well, where am I going to get certain nutrients? I'm going to have to take a lot of supplements and a lot of protein powders. I'm somebody who doesn't take supplements at all, even for B12, not for omegas. I get it all from food. And the reason for that is, like, I have whole foods and superfoods in my diet, and therefore I don't need to supplement. Also remember that when you're relying a lot on supplements, which are isolates, some of them are lab made, it actually creates a lot of problems in terms of your liver, which has to process that, as well as your gut. Okay? So the more you can stick to whole foods, plant foods, if you can find regeneratively grown foods, if you can get into growing some of your own foods. One of the best things to get into is growing sprouts. I highly encourage it because sprouts are amazing and really, really nutrient dense, much more nutrient dense than adult plants. The last thing that I want to touch on is a lot of ex-vegans, talk about the fact that when they went vegan, they felt really low energy. And so when they eat animal products, they feel better in their body. What is actually happening is that most people have adrenal weaknesses. In 6 years of my practice, what I've seen is across the board, people have issues with their adrenals, their gut, their liver. And so what happens when someone goes plant-based and they start to feel low energy, it's actually revealing an adrenal weakness. When they consume animal products, they are actually consuming the enzymes, the hormones, the stress hormones from that animal flesh that is artificially propping up their adrenals. So it is actually better to address the root cause, which is supporting proper adrenal health, rather than relying on animal flesh. Also keep in mind, right, everything is energy and frequency. Everything. If we were to go down to the tiniest particle, there's actually more space between particles than there is matter. And so those animals that are raised in horrific conditions, let's say they're even free-range animals, at slaughter, they feel fear, they feel sadness, they feel grief. And that goes into all their tissues, and it stays in their tissues at slaughter. And we have an epidemic of anxiety and depression. Does anybody wonder about why that is? One of my yoga teachers years ago said that when you consume animal flesh, you actually take on the emotions of that animal. And so to me, it's no wonder that we have this epidemic of sadness. In the years that I've done what I do, what I have found is that every time I transition someone's diet to a plant-based diet, to a superfoods diet, to a high fruit diet, whatever depression or anxiety they were dealing with just magically, poof, goes away. I don't do talk therapy. I'm not a therapist. My tools are nutrition, herbs, biohacks. That's what I do. That's what I teach, right? And so to me, it just makes so much sense that if you want a high vibration life, you want to be putting high vibration foods into your body, and that can't come from death. Even if it is free range, grass fed, blah, 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 right? Does this sound interesting to you guys, this concept? I just want to make sure that you're not asleep at the wheel there. But to me, that it just comes down to energy and vibration. And I would encourage you guys later today when you get home, look up the map of consciousness. I rely on the map of consciousness in my work and in my life. And it really talks about vibration and frequency. And when we look at the vibration of fear, of shame, of guilt, those lower vibration emotions, those emotions are what we need to get away from. Well, you cannot consume the flesh of an animal and be high vibration, okay? So at the end of the day, we're an alkaline species. We thrive on plant foods. We thrive on fruits. And I know that there's a lot of people that have walked away from this community, but I really invite anybody who is an ex-vegan to come back into this community and start to live their life in alignment with the values of love and compassion for all beings. I know that I personally would welcome back anybody who considers themselves to be an ex-vegan. I welcome them back into this fold, and I hope that you would as well. So thank you so much. I want to thank Vegfest, and I want to thank Fiona, and I want to thank all of you for being here.